an objective can have multiple key results, and each of the key results typically have multiple features that drive that objective.
A lot of people didn't had a good understanding of a OKR, and also everyone had their own OKRs, so it's very difficult to come together as a group in delivering. So that OKRs really brought that focus.
Team alignment is the key piece here, because if you don't set that boundaries and conditions for anybody to work on something, they could go in multiple different directions. Not basically, the efforts are not synchronously targeting towards one vision. These could get to our help us get to our key result and our objective, which in turn will help us realize the overall vision. Again, to lay it out very simply, right? Overall vision is getting people close together. Objective is increase engagement. Key result is increase engagement by 20.
All right. So today we have a very interesting topic that is OKRs, which means objectives and key results. So Sidhu, I'm sure you might have used OKRs in the past. Can you tell our viewers, I mean, in simple terms, what OKRs mean, and also probably give an example?
Yeah, sure, Srinath. So OKR is a goal setting framework, right? So there are a lot of different goal setting frameworks. There could be um, uh, OKRs are one part of it, but there could be smart goals. There could be maybe scorecards. So OKR is kind of a goal setting framework for companies. And OKRs are, as you said, objectives and key results. Objectives are more aspirational and qualitative. Key results are quantified and they have numbers in it, and that's how they work. And maybe to before we get into what examples of an OKR, right? Let's maybe take a step back and see when actually product managers or companies use OKRs, right? So imagine an organization or a product having a vision. So OKRs are something that actually helps you get to that vision one step at a time, right? So consider objectives as strategy or goals that will help you say if you are stepping stones towards that vision. And KRs act like a compass, which will tell you if you are going in the heading in the right direction or not. Maybe let's take a very simple example. Take Meta and its Facebook app. So let's look at the overall vision of the organization there. The overall vision of the organization is helping people get closer together. So that's what the Facebook team is trying to get to. They want to build apps to make and people interact more and also get people together and form communities. So that's the vision. So if I was a product manager for that, what would I do? What would I set the objective to be? So what does it mean that people are getting closer together? For me, it's engagement. So I'll set that the objective is increase engagement for the Facebook app. And how do I get to that, know if I'm actually getting to that point where the engagement is increasing or not? Then I maybe set a key result. The key result is I want to basically increase a number of interactions people are having on a month to month basis by 20%. So that's my key result. And when I take this to the engineering team will basically suggest me multiple different ways to get to that, which is uh, let's introduce maybe emojis that will make people react to each other's post. And maybe we'll also introduce a share button where people can share each post with each other. And also maybe we'll do like mentions where people will mention other people and other people will come and basically comment on that. So all of these could get to our help us get to our key result and our objective, which in turn will help us realize the overall vision. Again, to lay it out very simply, right? Overall vision is getting people close together. Objective is increase engagement. Key result is increase engagement by 20%.
Yep. Actually, I want to add a couple of things there, right? One more thing I typically do is going beyond one key result. So the way I would see that mapping is an objective can have multiple key results, and each of the key results typically have multiple features that drive that objective. So going back to the same example what Srinath took. So let's take Facebook's newsfeed, and your overall goal is to increase the engagement by 20%. Your objective would state very simply to say, hey, I want to increase my overall objective. So in terms of key results, like I was pointing out, the key results can be I want to increase the overall post by this much, or I want to increase the number of image based posts by this much. I want to increase the number of comments by this much. So all of these are typical key results that we know of. If you don't know, then you can have a very broad one, and then you can strive to like identify these. But if your product is at a mature state where you know different features within that are impacting it, then define these. Then within each of these, so for example, you want to increase the number of image based posts by 15%, then you define individual features or the initiators that can drive that.
Got
Yeah.
it. So if I want to summarize this in simple terms, so based on my understanding what you both said, basically the objective is what you want to accomplish. In our case, the Facebook example, it's basically increasing that engagement, and the results part is how you get there. That is basically, I think you guys also talked about the different results, like doing various, like probably developing features and all that stuff, right? And also it's a measurable, right? And also based on my understanding, it also looks like for results, it needs to be a smart. We need to be able to measure and take action. So there needs to be some metric that we can measure against, so we can evaluate how we are progressing towards that objective. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
that
right.
is correct.
So I think we can also
Got it.
bring the argument of outcomes versus outputs here. So, imagine, let's take a very quick example. And, you have an archer who's trying to shoot a target. And you basically say that, start shooting arrows. The person basically tries to measure himself by the number of arrows he shoots. But that's not the outcome we want. What the outcome we want is basically him hitting the target. So that's what we want. So if you are specific saying that can you hit the target with this much accuracy, he'll aim to do that rather than just launching things, where when you relate that to a product team, it's just launching features without any outcome that's driving the goal or the vision what the company is getting towards.
It basically
Yeah.
helps us in terms of prioritizing. At least in a product manager's mindset, right? One of the biggest things that a product manager helps a team with is prioritization. Right prioritization is very key to achieve the overall goals and overall vision for the company. So using OKRs will help us set a very clear direction. So let's take an example. So as a product manager, you get initiative requests from like multiple teams. It could be support, customer success, or talking to the customers itself, or talking to your key stakeholders. You get a bunch of requests. How do you know what to prioritize and what to not prioritize? Your gut will definitely tell five different things. Even the feature requests that you get will obviously have like business impact in each of those features. But having these clear objectives and key results will set you in a focused direction to say, hey, this new feature doesn't come under any of my objectives, or it doesn't impact any of my key results. So I'm not going to be able to prioritize your feature because of this. It also gets that alignment across several stakeholders so that they clearly understand where you are striving towards.
And I'm sure a lot of PMs out there are not only PMs. I think for anyone who is, whether it's a program manager, product manager, I mean, they always face this competing priorities. So it's pretty important to understand what to prioritize, what is a P0, P1, P2. And I think you brought up a good framework on how we can basically monitor and take action. I mean, I use that technique often, and it's been pretty handy for me to push back when needed.
Team alignment is the key piece here, because if you don't set that boundaries and conditions for anybody to work on something, they could go in multiple different directions. Not basically, the efforts are not synchronously targeting towards one vision. So I think uh, uh, OKRs could be like a double-edged sword, where if done right, it could be a rocket ship. If it's not done right, you are basically confusing the hell lot of teams, and they're not knowing what to do and all of that stuff. And sometimes they feel that they're also pigeonholed into doing only certain set of things, not the things which they want. So I think this basically is a single source of truth of where we want to get to and how we want to get to, and also at least maybe have a conversation with each other to say, is the strategy better than the other one, or is it yielding us the right results or no? And I would also say this is like a shield for a product manager, saying that this is what I plan to do, this is how we are measuring it, and this is what we have done right. You can actually show people that this is what the plan you have laid out for the whole group or the organization.
Yeah. So if we go back and relate to the example that you initially talked about, increasing that engagement, and also the results was all about features and the percentages. So what you're referring here is when we basically define that objective, it needs to be a uh, it needs to have a good vision and probably a long term thing, and also how you get there. I think you talked about some of the features such as the sharing feature, the like feature, and all that stuff, right, which we can monitor the progress, and if we are able to achieve that goal.
Yeah, that's right. And I think there are a couple of anti patterns which people just should keep watch out for. When you're defining an objective, we want to concentrate on what is the piece which is actually adding value to the user or the business, rather than just giving people something, deliver people something. And with the for the key results, I've seen a lot of teams do this as a laundry list of tasks which they want to do that quarter, right? But that's not an um, key result, and it's also not your backlog. It's not also not all the list of tasks which you do in Jira. A lot of teams try to do it in that way, but that's like you going backwards rather than moving forward.
Want to add something here, right? So many times what happens is teams are typically stuck in run the business mode. So for run the business things, right, you can clearly see that there is an impact. Like your operations team is suffering with something, they're doing some repetitive tasks which you directly want to update. So many times your backlog is filled with all of these requests from like operations teams or like customer support teams and stuff, which you see a direct impact and go ahead and implement it. But these are all run the business, which down the line is not impacting the overall goals or overall vision for the company. So that's where these objectives and key results will play a very key role to say, okay, teams are doing repetitive tasks, but it's still fine, because the other things that you can work on would move your teams way forward rather than the things that you're impacting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing which I would like to add here is, so we were in that similar boat in one of my previous company, so where we were getting a lot of requests from the operational teams, and obviously we had a lot of features that we need to develop and launch. So the way we approached that was, we, no matter what, we were dedicating 20% of our capacity for running the business, because that was also important. So we were evaluating all our priorities against that 20% bandwidth, and remaining 80% we were not touching for like all this KTLO work. We were primarily using that for the OKRs. That way we were able to clearly justify our time and also influence our operation leaders on like why we will prioritize and how we will prioritize, so we can create the transparency. So that transparency, especially, I'm sure you guys might have seen, or in your workplaces, is very important, because lot everyone wants their work to be done, and if you don't tell how you are prioritizing, if we don't have that transparency, that can basically impact trust between the teams.
And how often also matters a lot. So the way we define OKRs is every quarter. So let's say now the quarter is starting in July, right? So we start our OKRs process probably like first week of June, and then we continue to evaluate like how we are defining the objectives, what are the key results. We define that at a team level. We meet, I would say triad for now. Uh, PMs, engineering managers, and probably design managers come together to say, hey, these are the objectives that we want to strive towards, and these are the key results that we are anticipating. We take that, and obviously there are multiple teams within our organization, so everyone comes to the table and present their objectives and key results. If something is not aligning with the overall vision for the organization, we don't take it, or we have that conversation to say, oh, this is not the right way to measure, and this is the right way to measure for it. Another important thing that we need to do is consistently monitoring them, because many times what teams do is they define something, but they might be doing initiatives that might not be exactly impacting it. So go back to it every month and then see how you're performing it. There is different ways you can measure as well. We can go deep dive on that too. But how often you measure, I mean, how often you review these is very important.
So I used to see this with some teams before that they basically do this as a to-do list task where they fill it out in the quarter, and they just go back to it at the end of the quarter and see if they have aligned it with it or not, and they then make changes and make modifications to that. I think that's not the way which you do OKRs, right?
This goes
And
back to your outcome versus what is the other
yeah,
one?
Outputs.
Yeah,
yep.
outcome versus outputs, right? You
Yep.
just do it initially and then come back at the end of the quarter to say, okay, did my arrow hit there? Like, did we actually finish the goals?
Yeah, and then maybe try to put it in a way that it looks that we have done some parts of this and all of that stuff. So and
Yeah.
you said funny, so like couple of practices to do that, right? Recently we have also done this where individual team OKRs are basically cascaded up to org level, business unit level OKRs, and these are cascaded up to the organization level OKRs. I think that brings in more transparency, because you'll know actually how are you impacting the end goal of your organization or end goal of your business unit, right? And that will also help you prioritize like the objectives which would impact it directly, rather than you not knowing and doing something in a silo. Also, another practice which we started doing is doing a monthly check-in on the OKRs. So the teams come as a group to read out what they have done, what went well, what didn't go well, and how are they basically changing their direction based on the things they have seen in the whole month. So that's also basically setting a cadence where people come and review these things and also change the course if there's something that's missing out.
How
The
do you guys actually
organization level,
measure
there's
it? Finish
what
your
do
thought.
you may
Yeah, so
okay.
every month you guys meet, right, to see like whether the objectives, how is it going or not going and stuff. So is it like a 0 to 1 to say, my goal was 15%? Am I on the right track to meet it, or how do you guys think about the actual progress that was made, and then finally say whether the objective was good or not? I mean,
So
successful
there
or
are
not.
two different ways to do it, Funny. The first one is like when we do it in between a quarter, right? The way which we do it is let's maybe take our previous example where we are saying we want to increase engagement by 20%. To increase engagement by 20%, we have done three initiatives. One initiative is maybe introducing the emojis. Second one is using share. Third one is maybe tagging other people, right? So we go back and see like when we have launched like two of them or one of these features, like what was the progress towards our key result, right? So if we say that there has been an increase of 5%, that's our 25% progress towards our key result, which has to be achieved for that quarter. And if we have not moved anything, then we have to think about what are our other cards that will make us move towards that goal, so that way we can actually course correct on what we are trying to do. So that's the intermediate check-in which we do. And when you come to a criteria of like after the quarter, what do you do, right? After the quarter, let's take an example of this 20% engagement. So for an OKR, it's just either 0 or 1. There's no middle ground there. Either you are a success or a failure, right? So if you are a success, then basically you try to see, was this aspirational enough, or is it like a very easy task that was put into an objective. So you evaluate and see if it was aspirational enough. The second one is if you fail, then you come up with another strategy to get to that spot. So I think that's how you measure it, and there's a scorecard for all of these OKRs which you say if it's a success or a failure.
And I'd like to add one thing here. I mean, we also do a pretty similar way. We also use some tools like Jira to see if we are red, green, yellow, how we are trending towards that goal. So that also really helps us to understand where we are at, so we can take according action. I have a question for both of you. Since you both talked about how you guys do the OKRs, and funny, you said you do quarterly. I think Sidhu, probably you also said you also have, like, in addition to quarterly, you have monthly check-ins and all. What is the best way to, or what is the best cadence to do OKRs? Because
I
I've
would say
seen
quarterly.
different in different organizations. So just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, I would say quarterly. Just do quarterly and then do a monthly check-in. I've seen like good success for it, and it has good amount of time that you can give to the teams to come back as well. Like, two sprints honestly goes extremely fast when you think about like building a product, launching it, measuring it, etc. So having a monthly check-in is good enough. Yep.
Yeah, having a monthly check-in for at a team level is good, but sometimes at a business unit level or an organization level, the time frame might change. At a a group level, we have yearly OKRs. At an organization level, that's more of a 3-year plan where you have three different objectives which the company is striving towards. So that's how they things change. But at a team level, I think quarterly is perfect and monthly check-ins are good.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay. By doing this, right, what are the typical benefits that you guys see within your teams?
One thing which I often see is it's an organization level objectives, right? So everyone has to rally behind them. So without OKRs, I mean, if we define like objectives at team level, it's pretty hard to bring that collaboration. I feel by setting strong OKRs, we'll be able to bring that collaboration among all the teams, so we can deliver against that goals. So that is one of the biggest benefit that I see. Focus, which I've seen in one of my previous organization, where uh, a lot of people didn't had a good understanding of a OKR, and also everyone had their own OKRs, so it's very difficult to come together as a group in delivering. So that OKRs really brought that focus. So that is one thing which I would say. And also the second thing which I'll say is, I mean, it basically helps us to monitor the progress, especially with the key results. It really helps us to measure tangible results. That way we can basically move forward. I mean, those are
Yeah.
the two couple stuff that I would say. I mean, any insights from you, Sidhu?
Yeah, so I'd say the first thing is alignment, right? So once there is OKRs that are set, right, there is a good way to either debate whether it's right or wrong, right? So if you don't have these OKRs set, then you'll actually go circles and circles. So, if you have a document which says what the objective is, what the key result is, then the team can debate on saying that, is this objective actually make any difference to our vision, or this key result help us gauge whether we are going in the right direction or not. You'll start having all of these discussions and all. The second one is, as Srinath said, it's more like focus, right? Everybody, basically, you make it so simple that everybody has that objective in mind and they're striving towards that. When multiple people are aware of this and know what the importance is and are striving towards it, you will actually get a lot better results for that. And sometimes it also helps with cross team collaboration, right? Because you have set OKRs, but your OKRs might be dependent on other teams OKRs. So, for you to achieve your OKRs, you don't work in a silo. When you're working in a bigger organization, there might be different platform teams you're working towards, which have to get something done for you to get your OKR done, or you might be working with an operational team and all of that stuff. So having that cross collaboration and same language will help you better set expectations to other teams so that you can achieve your OKRs. The third one is, right, objectives are intentionally qualitative and aspirational, because this will actually help you course correct the way which you are going based on the measurements and the check-ins you do. So flexibility is something which OKRs give you. Yeah, I think these are all the elements which I would say help us with using OKRs.
Yep. I've seen similar things as well. I think the only thing that I want to add here is on the aspirational part, right? It makes team think. So many times what might happen is you start a quarter saying that okay, you're at a certain place, you might want to go to a certain place, but you might not put specific time to think through it because you're running behind like so many things during the quarter. So during this exercise on a quarterly basis would help think would help the team think more aspirational to say, okay, now I explicitly know that I'm here. I want to set an objective where I can think aspirational, get a moonshot idea into my team, and then see how I can get to the much more broader vision within a short period of time. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits that I would see.
Yeah, I also want to add on to the aspirational piece here, Funny. So I always believe that, right, if you think it takes 3 days to clean your house, it takes 3 days. If it takes 6 months, it takes 6 months to clean your house, right? So imagine you're setting an objective of you want to reach New York. And maybe if you set an objective of saying, I want to reach New York in 1 week, then you look for trains and other transportation to get to that spot. But if you say, I want to reach there in 3 hours, then you look for flights to get to that spot. So that's basically setting the mindset of the team of what pace they have to work to get to that space and what features they can or ideas they can basically implement to get to that place. So I think that it actually sets that pace.
Hope you guys are enjoying this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Everything Product, for latest product insights. Now let's go into the pitfalls, right? So the pitfalls of OKRs. I mean, what do you guys think? Maybe Funny, I'll start with you. What do you think are the common pitfalls of OKRs?
I think Sidhu pointed this one out already. The first thing that comes to mind is actually thinking of a laundry list of things that you want to do and then trying to fit that into an objective. So you have things that you want to achieve. You'll try to figure out, okay, these are the things that I want to achieve. Now let me figure out what is the right objective that I want to define to achieve that. So I feel like I've done this in the past as well because many a times you might not be able to say no because of all the impact, all the business impact that it has, and you try to fit into an objective or fit into a key result that you can, through which you can achieve those initiatives.
Yeah.
Uh,
uh,
Anything you want to add, Sidhu?
yeah, I feel that the pitfalls, the biggest pitfall is direction, right? So there are a lot of times where when you go to a person who set OKRs and ask him like, why did you even have this objective, they'll maybe say, because the sales team wants, right, the customer service team wants, or my manager wants it, right? But that's not the right answer, right? When your engineer comes to you to ask like, why do we have this objective, then you should be able to tell them that, okay, this is the right strategy to get to our mission, and this is basically will lead us towards this results, and so on and so forth, right? Reasoning behind why did you select it. And it also emphasizes the prioritization piece, right? Is it the biggest value that you're getting out of the energy you can put into building features for your product, or for your service which you're providing. So that's the biggest, I think, pitfall, I would say, people should consider. And also, right, for while building OKRs, don't build OKRs in a silo, right? Collaborate with teams. It's not a one person job, it's a collaborative job. Have that discussions with people, like what is the best objective. You can have a perspective or a point of view, but make sure you're collaborative, and do it in a group session, because once you do it in a group session, people tend to own the OKRs. Otherwise, it's something like a document which people think they have been pressured towards to get to, and they might not even consider what an OKR is, or don't have an agreement. So for a combined group agreement, make sure you do it as a group. And also, right, uh, I'd say sometimes problematic OKRs are not at all well defined, which don't have any numbers, or very vague, and as Phani
They
said,
need
it's
to
a
be
laundry
smart.
list of things. Yeah. And one other thing which I want to say is, right, if any organization is trying to implement OKRs, or are in a path to implement OKRs, do yourself a flavor, and you have to have a mandatory training that everybody has to go through, which is trying to understand what OKRs, and do that. Otherwise, there'll be so much chaos in the organization, because one person might think the OKR is something which is completely different to the other person's view, and they do it their own way, and there's like a lot of confusion and all of that stuff. Even before this recording, right, we each had different views of what these OKRs are and how they work and all of that stuff. So I think it's a good practice to have everybody go through a training of what OKRs are, and then start implementing and participating in the OKR ceremonies, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would like to add here, but before adding that, one thing which I always use in my conversations is prioritization cannot be based on the loudest voice in the room. So, especially a lot of these customer facing teams, I mean, I've experienced that myself. I think one can use is the framework that Funny has mentioned earlier, how he uses OKRs to map his priorities and all that stuff, and create that transparency between the teams. And in our example that you shared, Sidhu, earlier, I mean, people, like all the viewers out there, take that example. I mean, understand that in detail, and figure out how you can apply that similar thumb rules and all in your work. And
Yeah.
one thing which I also want to add to the pitfalls is leadership not defining that results. So I see leadership should define objectives, but how we get there should be defined by the individual engineering teams, because they are more closer to the product. I feel sometimes leadership also tries to define key results, which can create havoc, or basically, I mean, we may not be able to achieve the objectives that we want. So that's one of the common things, that mistakes that I often see as well. Hope you guys are enjoying this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Everything Product, for latest product insights. We took an example, we talked about it, we went into the details, pitfalls. I think probably now viewers have a good understanding of what OKRs is and how they can take this and apply in their work. With that being said, I mean, I would like to end our discussion with two key takeaways for our viewers. So I'll start with you, Funny. I mean, if you say the top two key takeaways for anyone who's thinking about OKRs, what would that be?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one is being aspirational. Um, do this exercise diligently every quarter and make sure to define the objectives as aspirational as possible. As Sita was pointing out, the timing, right? So if you don't define it aspirational, you can take it like multiple quarters to get to the same thing, but be bold enough to like take aspirational goals. The second one that I would say is collaboration. Like a product manager might have a completely different thought process than what a design manager has versus an engineering manager. So have a collaborative discussion before you define the objectives and key results, and make sure everyone is aligned on what you're signing up for, and make sure everyone drives it throughout the quarter.
Nice. What
Yeah.
about you, Sidhu?
My so one of my suggestions would be, right. No one gets OKRs right the first time, right? So it takes 2 or 3 cycles for teams to understand their metrics, what the baseline are, how are things working out, and then guessing and figuring out the OKR. So don't try to be perfect at the first time, but you will actually get to a spot where you are really good in like 2 or 3 iterations of it. So I think that's my first takeaway. The second one is, I always say, focus on outcomes rather than outputs. Don't be a feature factory just uh, you know building features. Try to understand what value are you adding to your customer, what value are you adding to your organization.
Got it. So my two takeaways would be, I mean, define results which are smart, which can be measurable, action oriented. And the second one, it's very important to understand how one can map their priorities to the objectives defined by the leadership. If they don't understand objectives pretty clearly, then they can basically face challenges, especially during prioritization conversations, or when they have so many features that they have that they need to build. So those are my two key takeaways. I think we shared a ton of information to viewers today. With that being said, I would like to wrap up this conversation. And for all viewers out there, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Everything Product, and see you guys all soon. Thank you.